Hey everyone, it's Andria again. Today we are continuing our series of the best and worst things about living in American Fork, Utah. Yesterday we did the 5 best things about living here in American Fork, and today we're going to continue on and do the 5 worst things. Now, this information I received in conjunction with doing a poll inside the All About American Fork Facebook group, and so they were quite helpful with that, and I really do appreciate that. So, the number one thing that people mentioned in this group as far as the worst thing about living here in American Fork, Utah, are the roads. The roads are horrendous, particularly south of the freeway. South of the freeway, I call that the other side of the tracks. That's where I live. I've lived here for 20 years. They have not maintained these roads at all. When they put in the green water system, it seems like they somehow, something, I don't know what, I'll have to look into it more, but it screwed up our roads. They always say fixing the roads are part of a 10-year plan, but I see not brand new developments, but newer developments that are getting road maintenance, while other people in the older homes, my home was built in 1995, we get nothing. Our roads are terrible, they're wavy, they're dangerous for kids to rollerblade, skateboard, even walk and run on. That is, that's just terrible. And moving on, next would be Utah Lake. Utah Lake is not known as the cleanest lake. Yes, my husband and I kayak there, people boat there all the time, paddleboard, but you won't see people swimming in there. It does get a lot of algae blooms in the summer, which is actually quite common for pretty much all lakes, but this lake is considered to not be a clean lake. Also, there are what are called mayflies. They look like mosquitoes, but they're not mosquitoes, but they are out in swarms, absolute swarms, especially in the hot days of summer, July and August. And so when we go out on the lake during those times, well, we'll either avoid it and go up to the lakes or reservoirs in higher elevations. So, for example, Tibble or Silver Creek Reservoir in American Fork Canyon, or up to Deer Creek. There's just a lot of other places that don't have the bugs in the higher altitudes. Or we'll go to Utah Lake in the early morning when it's cooler, so the bugs really won't be out. They'll start coming out when the sun gets warmer, when the weather gets warmer, or early evening when it cools off. It's awesome in beginning spring where it's still chilly, or early fall when it starts getting cold. Then you don't really have to worry about that so much, but in the hotter months, those mayflies are hard. And for those of us that live near the American Fork Harbor, the mayflies, and there's also a gnat problem, and that's from being so close to the lake. So I always have to water jet my home to get those gnats off of my screens and my siding on my house. So that's one negative. The third worst thing about living here in American Fork, Utah, is the traffic. We're getting so many people moving in from California especially. So, we're getting a lot of population, a lot of drivers here. And so they're having to repair do maintenance on the roads and put in a lot of lights because traffic is getting pretty busy. When I moved here 20 years ago, literally I would go out on a Sunday, everybody was at church. I never stopped. There was no lights. If there was 2 cars on the roads, when I was going up to the canyons, that would be amazing. There was hardly anybody out. Now, you go up in the canyons, and especially during COVID, you've got 50 cars deep. You've got people tailgating you and back you, so much traffic. It's really settled down since people are now out more. We're not on the house arrest from COVID, but there's still a lot more traffic up in the canyon and around the city than there ever has been. People aren't really digging that. Now, for me, when I first moved here to American Fork, now the people in the Facebook group did not mention this. This is just my thing, was the winters. I was born and raised in Southern California. Then I moved from Delaware. I lived there for a couple years before I moved to Utah. And getting used to the winter took me a long time. Now, I have friends that moved from California that say it doesn't bother them at all. But for me, being inside, I'm not a skier, but my husband and I do like to get out and photograph. And so we do that, and that helps me get through the winter. Taking trips to St. George, the weather is much more mild there in the winter, starting usually around end of January through March. It's quite a bit warmer there in the 50s and up, and so you can get a break from the cold temperatures or go down to Mesquite. That's I think that's a 4-hour drive from here in American Fork, 4 or 5 hours, I can't remember. Or just, go out to Vegas in California. Those are all really close getaways, and that helps me so much by, being able to handle the winter. And I do get a bit of seasonal affective depression, and so that really did help balance it out for me, taking several trips, out of Utah during that time frame. And I saw family in Southern California, so that helped a lot. And now the fifth thing that people mentioned, worst thing about living here in American Fork, and this doesn't just apply to American Fork, I think this applies to all of Utah, but it's the drivers. Drivers here are incredibly aggressive. Now, I don't know if it's the people moving in from other states or if it's just, you know, a natural consequence of having so many people move here in such a short time period that people are just getting aggressive. I mean, but I'll be driving down south to St. George or Mesquite, and I'll be doing 85, and people will pass me at 95, 100, 105 probably. And so people can be really aggressive on the road, and that's really frustrating for me because my daughter calls me an old grandma driver. I'm just a careful driver. We had a really bad accident in 2017, and so I'm just careful. I'm not in a big hurry unless I'm, really running late somewhere. But there we have it. Those are the 5 worst things about living here in American Fork, Utah. And I hope you enjoyed that video, and come back and see me again soon. It's Andria Franklin Arballo. I am a licensed realtor here in Utah since 2017. Thank you. Bye-bye.